Hey everybody, it's Ryan with Propelio. Today we've got Larry Higgins in here from Skip Genie. He is a resident skip tracing expert.
That's a fair description, yeah.
Well, first of all, for the rest of the class, what the hell is skip tracing?
Good question. So a lot of investors, you hear it in passing. Hey, you get return mail, you see a vacant house. You'll hear people say, "Oh, just skip trace the owner, send them a letter, call them," something like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd always heard. That's just a throwaway comment, and there you go. You never hear anybody talking about going in depth and what the hell is skip tracing, just like you said. So basically, it's finding those owners, the hard to find owners of vacant properties or distressed properties, or in some cases, it's used almost like telemarketing. Mm-hmm. Rather than mail, you take a list you would normally mail. You skip trace them, you get all their phone numbers, you just dial that entire list instead of dropping the mail. But typically it's going to be the smaller, the one-offs of, like I said, driving for dollars, return mail, and things like that.
Vacant properties.
Yep. And it can be something as simple as you get the phone number, call them, all of a sudden they're on the phone, nice, clean, and easy. Other times it can be a little more in-depth. You can't get a good phone number, you're calling relatives, you're trying emails, other means of contact. Or in some we personally have brought in genealogists because owner's dead and there's no heirs. Mm-hmm. The genealogist, that's taking it to another level, but those types of deals, highly profitable because
nobody else can get it.
By the time we contact the heirs, how many other investors have contacted those people?
Probably zero.
Zero, that's right. Literally informing them, hey, by the way, you own an interest in this property.
I know in a previous life of real estate, send out thousands and thousands and thousands of postcards, and every month you get about 200 to 500 return mails, just undeliverable mail, and you just throw it in the trash. If you had time, maybe you got a VA to just kind of scrape the list and take them off your list, so you weren't constantly spending money on that. But maybe it's just a sign of how ignorant me and the rest of my team was at the time. Of you could have taken that whole list and, like you said, skip trace it and maybe made something of it.
Yeah. So back when first of all, I don't do mail anymore. I'm not saying mail doesn't work. Right. I don't do mail. I didn't like mail 4 years ago. It's expensive, and 10 years ago it was probably awesome. I mean, the returns are probably awesome. But what's happening, dang near every weekend in cities like Dallas, Houston, all these big cities, you've got seminars, probably weekly. You've got people coming in, jump in, no money, jump into real estate. You're driving a Lambo, making millions of dollars next month, that kind of deal.
Right.
So you've got all these people coming out of these seminars. There's more and more people mailing to the same list, same property owners. It's like I tell people, I call it now the yellow letter lottery. Mm-hmm. Very common list. They're getting dozens of pieces of mail. If and when that owner's ready to sell something, they've got a stack of letters from investors and or realtors, depending on the list, and they'll pick 2, 3, a dozen of them, come make an offer. Well, congrats, you made the cut on you get to submit an offer, but you're going against 12 other people.
You just said something that sparked something in my head. You're talking about the gurus and everything coming to town, and also 10 years ago, direct mail pretty much worked all the time. Well, the gurus, they were probably investing 10 years ago, and it's just now they're guruing and not really doing the investing, but they're still teaching the same old school of thought.
I don't know anybody that's telling me they're getting a better return on the direct mail. Everybody I know, and we talk to people all over the country, it's mail, it's diminishing returns on the mail. Again, right. I'm not telling you, I'm not saying mail doesn't work, but the cost per buy has gone up a lot. Crazy. So if say you're newer to the market, or you were never high volume to begin with, it's costing you $5,000, $6,000, $10,000. There's not a lot of error there, for cost per buy. If you're brand new and you can't sustain $3,000, $5,000 spend for 2, 3, 4 months in a row and risk not getting a deal,
right.
That's a huge deal. You almost lost before you ever got started.
And we've said it here multiple times where, yes, we bash direct mail a lot, but that's just because we've seen it in the past where you throw out $10,000 worth of marketing, you're probably going to get $50,000 plus in returns, whether that means one big deal or 5 smaller deals, but it's going to be justified. Whereas nowadays, like you're saying, it's a hard pill to
And
swallow.
with the diminishing returns, so a lot of people have had it really good for a really long time. It's just everybody's, whatever comes their way, great. They send the mail, the calls come in, life's good. So now you're getting diminishing returns on that, or you're brand new, you can't afford to sustain that, or even to do a serious mail campaign. Why wouldn't you? If you have the mail, say you're spending $5,000 a month in mail. Why wouldn't you spend $100 or $200 skip tracing your return mail?
Right.
Because that's what got me down this path initially. Was I was always told, work your return mail, contact those. Why? Because nobody else is.
And you should probably send that person a thank you card because, again, a lot of people, like myself included, and the school of thought I came from was return mail was just dead, and you threw it away. And in our part, we thought we were doing good just by taking it off the list, not mailing it to it again. Yeah. But again,
I've talked to people. They'll mail people will mail 3-4 months in a row. What they'll do, they'll get the mail the third time. Somebody you probably he was laughing as he's telling me this. The third time that it got returned, they took it off their list to not mail it anymore and just threw it away, and that was it. And I'm like, Mike, three times in a row, yeah. So that was one thing to return mail is even if you are high volume, if you're spending that much money, it's just
spend a couple dollars.
Yeah, spend a little bit more, and there are deals in there. A lot of that's going to depend maybe on a lot of people like to ask, what's your ratio of skip tracing deals and this and that. Well, a lot of it's criteria contingent. What was your mail list? Mm-hmm. Was it just high equity, absentee owner over the age of 65, or was it, a non-owner occupied estate with tax issues? There's a big difference in the ratio, your ratio of leads to deals depending on the list. But so return mail is a big thing. You're leaving money on the table if you're not actively, skip tracing your return mail, figuring out what's going on with those owners. So I had that starting out. I think my average return rate was like 6 to 7% return mail. Before I knew it, between that and seeing vacants driving for dollars, I had 200-300 addresses, nice and neat on a spreadsheet. Mm-hmm. I knew I needed to skip trace them. I didn't know what do I do. At the time, to pay somebody to do it for me was like $50 a pop.
Lead?
Yeah, and there's no guarantee that they're going to get you in touch. And so I learned. I went through this evolution of learning how to. I was like, okay, I can't. It's not rocket science. I'll learn how to do this. Started just like a lot of people using some really what I call lower tier service providers. That's the most common mistake out there. Mm-hmm. If you've got a vacant house or return mail, please don't use lower tier cheap stuff. It's not good.
Well, what would that be? For me, I don't even know what that means.
Intellius, Spokio, been verified, white pages, People Finder.
You're saying don't use those?
No. The one thing they have going for them is they're cheap. Okay. The problem is their data is incomplete. By that I mean it's dated phone numbers, missing phone numbers.
So it's almost like a waste of money.
Yeah, because the nature of return mail and vacants is those people are generally going to be harder to reach. So the starting point is have good quality data. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you could literally be running in circles. I'll give you an example. Had a guy contact me not too long ago wanting to know if we could help get a number for somebody. He was using, it was either Intellius or Spokio. Couldn't get a good phone number. The lady, this was in Maryland, the lady was supposedly 72. I pull her up real quick. I started laughing. She died 2 years ago.
You're laughing at a dead lady? That doesn't sound very nice.
Yeah. I'm laughing because I told him, I said, unless you can talk to dead people, you're not going to get her on the phone. And so he had a vacant property. It was distress. It wasn't just vacant. There was some other stuff going on. He's running in circles trying to get a good phone number for this lady, pulling his hair out thinking, this sucks. Well, he wasted valuable time. He should have been looking for the relatives and contacting them. And that's what I mean by you're literally losing money if you stick to those services. So it starts with the quality.
And it sounds like it's very similar to other aspects of real estate where, if you're doing what the pack is doing, yes, you can be successful, but it's a harder kill. Like the direct mail, yes, you can be successful, but it's a hard kill. Whereas like door knocking, nobody does that. Well, I mean, in relation to the mass, hardly anybody does that. So the ones that do it, they tend to have higher returns. So skip tracing your return
and
mail.
What's the difference in those? Okay, so mail, SEO, pay-per-click, things like that, that's passive. Passive equals expensive.
Right.
There's a barrier of entry there for a lot of people. They, like I said, they can't afford to spend $1,000, $5,000 a month for 3 or 4 months and not afford to get a deal.
Right.
They're broke. It's game over. Or, starting out when you're brand new, maybe you get a couple whiffs of a deal. You get some leads come in. You don't know comps. You don't know rehab values. You don't know how to negotiate. You don't know how to find buyers. You're going to blow deals.
Right.
I laugh at some of the stuff I messed up on. It's just part of the learning process.
Yeah.
So that stuff is passive. It's expensive. I'm not saying it doesn't work.
Right.
But especially if you're starting out, you have more time than you do money. Put that energy and time to skip tracing, or like you said, door knocking. You're using your time and energy, and it's not passive. There's work there, and it's the same with skip tracing. It's not too cumbersome. I mean, it's not like you're out in the Dallas heat in the summertime. You're at a computer and using a phone.
So let's go back to what does that entail? Like, you don't use those services you just listed off. I'm putting in 123 Main Street. And is it just a matter of going into one of these higher tiered services and paying them, and then you put the address? Because you said there's work to it, but if it's just a matter of going to somewhat like a Google search thing, and then 123 Main Street, that doesn't seem very hard.
Well, first of all, start with upper tier data, like I said, whoever your service provider is, and there's several of those that I can say, hey, that it's good data in general. There is an approval process for most of those.
Why is that?
Because you can get access to sensitive information, Social Security numbers, and things like that.
Oh, really?
And some of them just flat out won't approve you just because it's your intended use of their service is not permissible. Yeah. So I'm saying there are quality services available out there. You just have to get one. So as far as where it starts, say you're driving down the road, or you're brand new, you're driving for dollars. You build up a list of vacant properties. It's real simple. You go into your service. Search that. You generally need 2 points of reference: name and address. Mm-hmm. You run the search, and you see what you get. You're going to get a good provider is going to give you age, date of birth. Are they dead, deceased? Mm-hmm. Kind of important to know. Address history, all the phone numbers associated with them, likely relatives, possible email addresses, and what I call financial distress indicators. Account as far as bankruptcies, liens, and judgments.
So even skip tracing, you can get that information?
Yes.
Because that seems like huge. Because if you're working like a pre-foreclosure list, yes, you have that. But say you don't have access to a pre-foreclosure list, which you can also get here at Propelio.com. That said, but say you don't have access to one of those, if you're just skip tracing all these drive-bys or these vacants or whatever, that sounds cool.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people all the time. Vacancy, number one overall indicator of likelihood of a deal. So say you find 10 vacant houses, you skip trace all 10 owners, you find it's not uncommon, you're going to find deceased owners. So maybe that house is tax delinquent too. Mm-hmm. That's a common mailing list. But the mailing address is the same as the property address. So all these investors, let's say Ryan's mailing the tax delinquent list. Your mail's going over there, but the house has an overflowing mailbox.
Right.
Typical sign of a vacant house.
And the owner's out in Connecticut or something.
Or the owner's died. You don't know that because per the appraisal district, it says, John Smith lives off Main Street,
right,
and his mailing address is right there. So you're sending mail to him, but I see the house is vacant. I skip trace him like, well, John died 2 years ago. Okay. Oh, he has one heir. His daughter lives in New Hampshire. House is vacant, delinquent taxes. You think she might want to sell? Nobody else has contacted her because nobody else is skip tracing. You think he just doesn't want to sell because he didn't call you. You sent a letter to him. That's a very typical scenario. Mm-hmm. Or in some circumstances, maybe the owner dies. This has happened multiple times. The owner dies. The mail is either getting forwarded to the family, or they're going and collecting the mail. That kind of thing. They're getting all this mail, but they won't call, and they want to sell, but they won't call anybody. They may think they don't own it or they can't sell it for some reason. If you can call them, get them on the phone, that's going to make the difference in whether or not you get deals.
Right.
It's not uncommon. I've called people, and they'll tell you, yeah, I'd love to, but you're going to talk to the county or talk to the bank. They own it now. I don't know where they get it from, but they just assume because nobody's paid the taxes in X amount of months or nobody's paid the mortgage, They just assume it's gone. And when you do, I'll ask you, if you call me and I say, hey, I don't own any more, the bank does, good luck, call them. Mentally, I've accepted zero for that house. What do you think? You think you have a good shot at a deal?
I would hope so, yeah.
Yeah, they've accepted zero. Anything you add above zero is profit to them.
Right.
And you're going to typically solve some other problems. You're bringing a lot of value into that situation. A lot of times, I talk about deceased owners. They're not showing up on probate lists. There was no will. Maybe that's why they think they couldn't sell. Mm-hmm. There was no will, or they couldn't afford to get an attorney to do the probate. They don't know any of that process. Well, as investors, that's our job. It's a little bit more work. It's not a real clean, simple deal,
right,
but it's still easy, and we're solving those problems.
So from a research point of view, if I'm using those services and I'm looking through it, does that give me all the information and it's just up to me to kind of get a hold of this person?
Yeah.
Or are there different levels of research? Where
Definitely different. Yeah.
And then bam, to bam, to bam.
Definitely different levels. Generally, most people or their heirs are not that difficult to find. So on a typical report, again, assuming it's a quality service provider, typical report, you get all that information I mentioned, phone numbers, email addresses, age, and you also get likely relatives. That's typically going to be spouses, children, parents, that kind of, your really close relatives. So you look up somebody, say they've died, you're like, okay, I'll just pull reports on one of these likely relatives. Most people, probably 85, 90% of people, that's a real easy process. It's right there. It's just a matter of picking up the phone and calling them. You do have to take it, I call it the escalation process. Sometimes you can't get, I don't care how good your service is, sometimes you can't get a good phone number for somebody. Say they're alive. You never know why. Again, don't hesitate. That's a real common mistake for people that start skip tracing. They give up too soon. Mm-hmm. If it's a quality lead, I won't stop till I get somebody on the phone that can tell me what's going on, give me a yes or no, or say, hey, I'll pass the message along.
Now, when it's difficult to find a human or somebody that knows what's going on, is that an indicator to you? Because in my ear, I'm hearing, well, that just, every time you can't find somebody, that just raises the value of the lead itself. And maybe my thought process on that is kind of reversed. Because if that means it's taking more and more work to find, John Smith at 123 Main Street, I know every other investor gave up on tier one. So when you come across that, are you like, whoo, money?
Yeah, I tell people this. I get more excited. I get more excited about the lead, and I get more focused on it. The harder it is. Yeah. And again, I'm pretty targeted. Let me say I'm very targeted in what I go after right now, just because I have limited capacity to go after deals at the moment. I'm kind of spread myself thin, so I have to make my deals. It has to be a lot of bang for my buck there. So I'm already really targeted. I'm looking at, each property is going to have multiple distress indicators happen. Vacancy, deceased, taxes, loan, divorce, whatever, and there's going to be a huge spread there. If something's going on with those owners, they're deceased or the heirs, I said, I'm more and more, the harder it is, the more and more focused I am on finding that person, the more excited I am. The harder they are, generally, the way I equate it is, it's generally going to be the likelihood of it being not just a deal, but a better deal goes up. Each step you have to take, it goes up. If you can just pick up the phone and call them, very first phone call that rings, they answer.
That means everybody that's watching this video saying, Larry just taught me how to skip trade.
Yeah.
They got the lead too.
Yeah, it's a lot of them. Like I said, a lot of people, they're fairly easy to reach, or their family. It's the ones where you really have to put the work in. But a lot of people think, well, why would you do? It's just it's too much. It's you're spending too much time.
Right.
Well, we're doing some pretty significant deals with nothing but using that process.
Well, you're talking about the time effort to it. I've been on the phone call with you get the direct mail phone calls, buy call rings, and it's grandma, and she just wants to talk for an hour, and you give her that hour because it's a buy call, and you never know where that will go, and you hang up, and 3 months later you get that same call, and you talk to her again, and to me that's way more waste of time. And
you get a lot of tire kickers, and you get the people that are just pissed off at life in general, and they want to threaten to sue you for sending them a letter.
Right.
And that's another thing. If you're fairly new, I tell people all the time, go find 100. Again, going back to vacancy, to my opinion, number one overall likelihood, number one indicator to determine the likelihood of a deal. Go find 100 vacants, and then don't try and chase 100 all at once. Prioritize. Not all vacants are equal. Some are pretty clean, well maintained. Mm-hmm. Taxes are being paid. Others, it's boarded up. Code violations still in the yard.
Right.
Maybe it's even listed in an estate or whatever, or it's got a huge tax delinquency. Just based off of free public county records, you can prioritize into your top 10 or 20. And the more distressed that property is, especially with vacants, when you're new, you don't know what. You don't know how to negotiate. You don't know. I hate owner-occupied properties. Vacant properties are so easy to move because typically you have free access. Put on a lockbox. You can bring your contractors through, your buyers, all that kind of stuff. So you spend relatively little money to skip trace. Even if you skip traced all 100 people, all 100 properties, that's a hell of a lot more affordable than 1,000 on mail rolling the dice. These are quality leads. And like I said, you've got a lot of room for error. There's a lot of factors going in your favor that they want to sell to begin with. It's can you solve whatever problems they have, pay the taxes, that sort of thing. So it's an easier negotiation, less money spent, your cost per buy is significantly lower. You just got to go out there, find the quality leads and, get in touch with those owners.
So I think to summarize all this so far is, skip trace your leads. If you have vacant properties, if you have driving for dollars, if you have return mail in your direct mail, don't give up on it. Skip trace it and rework those leads, because otherwise you're just throwing good money out the door.
Absolutely. If you're going to throw away your return mail, I'll give you our mailing address.
Just send the return mail to you.
Yeah, because it really, you really are. You're throwing money away.
Yeah.
You're throwing a lot of money away if you're doing that. So, another thing you can do, we've done it, is just skip trace an entire, starting with a quality list. Mm-hmm. The only thing I would filter it for was an equity spread, delinquent taxes versus tax appraisal. There's a good equity spread. Just skip trace the entire list, and we just had a lady calling all day, every day, and leads weren't flowing in every single day, or sometimes maybe not even get one in the week. But at the end of the day, she made us a tremendous amount of money just from cold calling.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to pivot to strategies now. Yep. So the strategies of how to market to your newly skip trace list. Now, because we've already talked about direct mail as kind of kaputs, but once you've skip traced it and had real people, are you and your team specifically just cold calling, or are you sending letters? Are you slide broadcasting?
Don't send any letters.
Facebook stalking.
It's pretty, for the most part, I can get people on the phone. But this is another part of the process where most people just give up way too early. They're skip tracing. Like I said, even with the best services, a lot of people, you just can't get a good phone number for them, or you're getting phone numbers and you don't know if it's the right ones. By that I mean they're working numbers. You're getting a message like mailbox full, mailbox not set up, this subscriber not taking calls right now, or you get a generic voicemail. And when that happens, you can leave a message, but you don't know if it's the right person.
Right.
That's a very common scenario. What I do, I'll give them a day or two. If nobody calls me back after I've left a voicemail, I take the time to send text messages.
Okay.
And that ultimately, sending text messages will make the difference in whether or not you get some deals.
So you do, if I'm hearing correctly, you keep it in-house. Like you're doing the text message yourself. You're doing the calls. You or someone in your team is doing the calls themselves. Because I know there's a service called like Slide Broadcast, which most people don't know about. Excuse me, but that's a service where it's essentially telemarketing, but their phone doesn't ring. They just get a voicemail. It's ringless
voicemails.
Yeah.
We call them voicemail drops. We've tested that a little bit. We need to do more with it. There's a lot of... This whole thing has been an evolution for us as far as creating entire strategies around skip tracing. Mm-hmm. We have done a couple test things with that, and we got feedback. We just need to make a more focused approach with it.
To me, obviously, if you have dedicated people making actual human-to-human phone calls, that's a no-brainer. But say if you were to economies of scale and scale up, that's just not feasible unless you have 10 to 15 people in the call center.
And
then you have to train all of them.
Yeah, and when I talk to people, sometimes people are like, oh, it's great. Some people do. All of a sudden, because they feel the pinch of return mail, a lot of people know they're supposed to have been doing something with it. Literally, we've had people call us that over the years, they're high-volume mailers, and they've held on to it. They'll literally have thousands of pieces of mail to skip trace. And they're wanting to do it, but it's like, whoa, wait a second. That's great. I love that you want to do that, but you're not geared up. You're not set up to work 5,000. And that's one thing when I talk to people now that think they want to jump off, just jump into it head first with no experience. But you've got to learn. There's a little bit of a learning curve. Learn your capacity to work those leads. You have a finite amount of hours to call, text, ringless voicemail. Figure that part out, and then grow into the higher volume, whether it's straight up telemarketing or a bunch of return mail or whatever the case is. And once you learn that process, you can do it in house. I still do calls that I hate. I don't like doing calls. I still do them to this day because it's effective. Yeah, it makes a lot of money. You could hire people in house. You can use VAs. You can. I'm testing a call center right now. The pay structure makes sense in my mind. It's just a matter of because I want to increase my capacity. I know I'm leaving a lot on the plate because I'm not doing as many calls as I should be. That's why I'm so targeted.
Right.
I just don't want to manage somebody in the office like we've had in the past where you got to stay on top of them. And it's just, if I can turn that over to the call center, it's hands off, I'll give it a shot, see what happens.
So you brought up something you just kind of touched on it, like you were coaching somebody. Like, what does that mean? Are you mentoring people? What does that mean? So obviously we help people with this, and we as in Skip Genie?
Yeah.
Okay.
So people contact us. Sometimes I get message on Facebook. Just yesterday, actually somebody he talked about, hey, how much is it for 1,000 leads? I'm like, whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to set you up for failure. And what happens is you bite off more than you can chew. You get frustrated because, like I said, some people they're hard to reach. You you leave those voicemails, they don't call back. I'd rather you learn the process and break it down to manageable chunks, prioritize everything, and work through it. But we kind of just from an initial conversation, I'm going to let them know that. But the other side of it, as far as mentoring or coaching, it's just part of what we do as a weekly phone call is just what issues are you having. Maybe it's a really hard to find person or just an overall strategy and just things like that. Anything and everything with what you're doing. If I can help, my commitment is, every week, every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Central, let's get on the phone. I'll stay on there as long as you have questions. Because ultimately, we're not doing any good if you're not getting, you're not going to be our customer much longer if you're not being successful with it.
So as a customer, if I'm using Skip Genie, what does that mean?
So you're getting, first of all, we are a quality data provider. We're upper tier.
Now, are you giving me leads, or do I still have to provide you leads?
You bring the leads in. Okay. We're just going to give you access to our dashboard, our system where you can log in and do your searches manually. Or something that's unique to us is we can also do bulk skip traces. So say you do want to do a test run to just cold call people rather than mail, or you have a list of 500 pieces of return mail. Just put it in a spreadsheet, send it to us, and generally same day we're going to send you the results back. In a spreadsheet, you can just upload it in your auto dialer, whatever program you use. We give you a lot of scripts for different scenarios, talking to the owner, relatives of a deceased owner, vacant house, different scripts that have been really effective for us that we've tweaked. I've learned through trial and error. I've had some painful conversations on the phone.
So are you like a RIA type thing, or are you just these are just value adds that you're just giving to your members?
No, all that's it. That's just part of what we do. Okay. Like I said, we want to set you up for success. If you're one of our customers, the only thing you consistently pay for is your searches. As far as, that's up to you. How much you spend on searches is up to you, just however many leads you're working. Scripts are free. Those weekly phone calls, I try and do as many individual. Some people, they need help here and there. They have a little emergency. I can't commit to, you can call me any time of day and night. Right. Yeah. But I try and make myself as available as possible. If we need to add another weekly phone call at some point because it's getting a little crowded, we're going to figure that stuff up as we grow. But to me, that the most important thing, quality data is important. Knowing what to do with it is just as or more important than anything else. Right. And nobody ever talks about that. And that's kind of where, that's the void that we're trying to fill.
So just to be clear, everything you do, I can do on my own.
Yeah.
I just need to research it, learn how to do it, find a quality provider, and just work my tail off. Yeah. Is that about right?
That's it. And I'm giving some kind of in-depth examples. Some of these people are hard. I'm working on a deal right now in Houston. It's a dead end. The lady died, no relatives. Contacted the reverend that did her service 3 years ago at the church. He can't figure out why it was there. I thought maybe there was a family member or something. Our genealogist that we use just sent me some results today. So now I've got to go figure out how to try and run them down. That's a lot of effort, but I'm looking at it, delinquent taxes, deceased owner, vacant house, code violation sign in the yard. There's a lot of things going in my favor.
Right.
So that part is work, but like I said, a lot of people, they're not that hard. If you have quality data, they're not that hard to reach as long as you're thorough, methodical, you work through those numbers. I mentioned texting. Just did one of our recent deals. I call it the $80,000 text message. So deceased owner.
It cost you, or you got it?
No, it made us $80,000.
Yeah.
So, but that's one of the things that's separate. That's part of this process and being methodical. Owner died, significant tax issue, and this is in Austin. Right. First time I've ever done a deal in Austin. It wasn't by accident. It was very intentional. Found a house. It was a quality lead. And owner deceased, found the 3 heirs, real easy to find them. They each had quite a few phone numbers, a lot of questionable phone numbers. Left messages with all of them. None of them would call me back.
Right.
And gave it a day or two. Then I just sent a text message to every single one of those questionable phone numbers for the 3 heirs. Within like 2 minutes, one of the daughters replied to me, and they did want to sell. I actually made, without ever having talked to them, ever having walked the property, she's like, "What's your offer?" So I'm like, okay, ARV is this, the delinquent tax value is this, the house is vacant or looked vacant. I found out later one of the heirs had just moved back in. And that's all I had to go off of. I'm like, okay, gave her a broad ballpark, but I was swinging I was swinging for the fences. I'd already done all the work. I'm like, I can't, she wouldn't get on the phone. It was all through text message. And she said, well, that seems fair. Let me talk to my brother. So, I call it, it's kind of flashy, the $80,000 text message, but it drives home the point.
Right.
Send the damn text message. That's part of working these leads thoroughly.
There's your hashtag, Travion. Send the damn text. That's your hashtag for the day.
And you mentioned, Facebook. I will look up people on Facebook as needed. I found them on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I just learned this morning that you could skip trace, and this is the whole Skynet Terminator thing, where you could skip trace a list. And then get their phone numbers, get their addresses, then go to Facebook ads and target them. And, I mean, in theory, I probably always knew that because Big Brother's always going after you, but I didn't know it was that specific. And
and I haven't personally done that, but with those email addresses, you're exactly right. We actually have a customer that does. I haven't talked to him lately to see kind of how I probably should check in with him, but he still does mail. He's just total 360 around these people. He's doing the mail, he's doing phone calls, he's doing ringless voicemails, he's doing text messages, he's doing Facebook.
Basically anywhere they look.
He's stalking them all over the place. But
which is okay if you're trying to buy their house.
Yeah, if you're solving problems, go get it.
If you're doing the other thing, you don't do that.
Yeah, that's called a TRO if you're doing it for the wrong reason.
Before we get too off topic, a second ago we were talking about doing it yourself. But the follow-up on that was the benefits of going with you, I'm assuming, is I don't have to do that. All I got to do is give you a list. Is that fair?
Well,
where does that, what are the major benefits of, well, I don't have time to do this. Here, Larry, take care of it. Like, how does that work?
So we won't actually we're not going to we're going to give you the data, give you the reports on these people. It's just to do this in scale and mass, it's cost prohibitive to have somebody do it for you. That's why I got into this.
Okay.
Because I had 200 leads, I was fairly new, and every skip tracer that I contacted, yeah, they'll do it, but it wasn't much more than what we're doing, and there was no guarantee of contact or anything else. It was $50 a pop. Well, I couldn't roll the dice on that.
Because if you've got 1,000,
yeah.
that's insane.
To make this cost effective, pay for the reports, learn to do it yourself. It's not that hard for the vast majority of them. And if you get a really hot lead, that's what our weekly call's for. We'll walk you through, and I will take an interest. I like coming up against new scenarios, stuff going on in different states. I like to see how the different state laws work and things like that. I'll take a personal interest, and I might jump in in those circumstances. I might actually do it for you.
Speaking of, is Skip Genie, is that local to Texas? Are you national?
No, it's all over from coast to coast. Actually, probably need to look at going into Canada now. I've had a couple inquiries about, can we do this in Canada? I was like, no, not. Wow, what you got?
Like, how much money you got?
Yeah, is this U.S. dollars or Canadian? Yeah. But yeah, so all these databases, it's all, so going anywhere in the country is fine. But
what about membership fees? Like, are you a price per lead, or is it as a member, or how if I wanted to be your client, how does that work?
It's just you sign up. Like I said, we don't make you. We won't put you through the credentialing process like you have with others, because we sanitize our result. You don't need people's Social Security numbers. You don't need any of that. So there's no office inspections, no background checks, none of that. We sanitize it. We give you what you need, relevant information to get in contact with people. So if you're interested, we give you, say you called us, said you're kind of interested. I'm going to say, great, I'll give you a trial link. You can test it out, see how it works, get some searches for free. If you're interested from there, you can sign up. We have 2 different plans. There's a monthly fee that covers the scripts and the phone calls. Like I said, I talked about upper tier data. We actually have guys that use like DelPoint or TLO or something like that. But so they're not using our data, but they're using us for our weekly phone calls.
Okay.
Because we're filling that void that those, like I said, nobody else does that.
Well, like we started this whole segment off by saying skip tracing. It's just people just talk about it in passing.
Something as simple as, they're like, hey, the owner's dead. I'm like, well, did you Google look for an obituary? No, I didn't think about that. That's real simple. Even when you have the relatives listed on a report, my goal is to add as much value as possible, help people get deals as quickly, as cheaply as possible, especially newer people. That's where I see we can have a huge impact. I'm not asking you to pay $10,000, $25,000 for a life-changing seminar. My goal is to help you go make $25,000 on your first deal, that kind of thing.
Well, I'm going to do something very unprofessional right now because I have to use the restroom. If there's any Facebook questions, now's a great opportunity and time to do that. Otherwise, you have a free opportunity to pitch yourself. I apologize, Facebook. I am about to pop. I just downed.
Do we?
We'll just keep going. It'll take me 5 seconds.
Do we have a screen anywhere that?
Travion can help you.
Oh, okay.
My bad.
I was going to see if there's any questions or anything. Is anybody posting?
Questions yet?
Okay.
Well, maybe Travion has questions.
Okay, so.
It's good stuff. It's better him than me.
So did you talk about like where you are located?
I'm actually, I am an active investor. My partner and I we're actively doing deals, pursuing deals, but we're based out of the Houston market. Like I said, but we're working with people all over the place.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. How long have you been in the business, and why did you go that route of skip tracing?
It was real. So I've been in real estate for about 4 years. I had a construction management background. And it was really out of necessity. Like I said, I didn't like mail back then. And because I had so many leads that everybody, all the gurus said, hey, you need to skip trace these, get in touch with the owner. It was just the only, I had them. I said, if these are the best leads, I need to do something with them. And I just went down that road. And, 3 years later, 3.5 years later, everything I around skip tracing.
Okay. By the way, I'm inviting a lot of people to.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine.
I don't want you to think
Invite away. No, I figured you're over there working your magic.
I apologize.
Well, like I told Travion, it's better him than me.
Well, I was just like, do I end the segment early or do I just do the? I mean, we're not crazy professional here anyway. You know.
I think we've
Travion's laughing at me. He's like, "How dare you?"
I think we've it's basically real estate investors watching this. We've all been there. You're on an appointment. You're out and about. You're driving all over town.
And then there's a fence.
Yeah.
It's like
backyard. Yeah.
Do what you got to do. I don't know. What were we talking about? Direct mail, skip trace. Oh, skip trace. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Anyway, was there any questions, Ariel? Again, I apologize. I literally was like...
Trust me, like I said, I know how that goes.
I don't know if you saw me doing more and more of this, but I was like, oh.
Alfred would like to know the prices.
Oh, yeah, pricing.
So we had our two plans. One is $47 a month. One's $97 a month.
Okay.
At $47 a month, it's $1.50 a search.
Okay.
And at $97 a month, it's $1.25. And
so
if
it's $97 a month plus
whatever searches you have. With that, like I said, we give you the scripts. You get access to the weekly phone calls. But we also, at $47 a month, once a week, you can submit what we call a bulk skip trace. So if you have a list of 100 or 10,000, once a week, give it to us. We'll get it back to you. At $97, you can do it as much as you need to, as often. So it's all automated. But we do have to have manpower that when you submit that list to do a bulk skip trace, we have to run it through the system, do the QA check at the end, make sure everything's good.
Now, is that through like a web portal, or is it like send Larry an email?
It's through our webpage. We have a link to upload it, so it's automated from that standpoint. And then the results just get emailed back to you. And there's a calendar link if you need to schedule a call with me to go discuss the results. One thing I'm real big with is prioritizing. So say you have a list of 100, you skip trace 100. It comes in like a spreadsheet format. I'm just going to scroll through it, look at certain. I'm going to pay attention to who's deceased, ages, address history, some things about the phone numbers. There's all kinds of little telltale signs, things that can help you to prioritize. And like I tell people, some people never pay attention to ages. Say it's a vacant house, and this is why it's so important. Sometimes the way these databases work, everybody gets their death records from what we call the Social Security Death Index, SSDI. Well, sometimes
I've never heard that term before.
Yeah, it's not. We don't just sit around talking, hey, SSDI.
I don't know. I just like when I hear something new, I'm like, well,
So that's the national database, and it makes sense. Yeah, somebody dies, so, hey, Social Security, turn it off. Sometimes those deaths don't get recorded or reported,
right?
So none of these databases can pick that up. So it's not uncommon that you see somebody come back, they're 95, 105 years old, or maybe even 85, whatever. But say it was a obviously vacant house with 5 years tax delinquency, it's in real rough shape. I tell people all the time, pay attention to the age for that reason. It's not uncommon that if you did a search for an obituary online, you're going to be able to confirm what I generally suspect, that, hey, they've actually died. Mm-hmm. It gives you all that information. Or the other thing is, if maybe they're 90 or 100 and they're alive, you don't want to call them. Call their children, call somebody.
Hello?
Yeah. I've been in an awkward position. You don't want to ever be accused of taking advantage of an elderly person.
Right.
I never have, but talked to a lady one time. I think she was pushing 80. House was vacant, tax issues, husband had died, and she seemed pretty seemed normal, a little forgetful about some small things, talking to me about the house. I didn't think anything. It reminded me of my grandmother. It was like, yeah, a little forgetful, no big deal. That was on a Wednesday. On Friday, I called to confirm we're still good for our appointment the next morning. Her granddaughter answers and explains, hey, I'm her granddaughter. My grandmother has dementia.
Yeah.
And I thought she was about to tear into me for taking advantage. I was floored.
Yeah.
And she told me, she said, look, I believe you. I said, look, I had no idea. She goes, no, I believe you. She had a good day on Wednesday. She's like, I wouldn't have taken this appointment, but since she made it with you, we'll go ahead and do the appointment tomorrow. It ultimately led to a deal, and they were very happy. It took a little bit of a hassle off of their hands. But that's why I tell people, pay attention to the ages.
So going back to the hard deals, or not the hard deals, but the hard information to go through and get, and we were saying those usually lead to the best deals. If I'm using your service, is somebody on your team or you or somebody just like hammering home that address until you get the contact details? Or is it, hey, this is what that first tier got back, you need to resubmit it to get another tier? How does that work?
Well, so we're going to give you whatever that, when we run the report, whatever that generates. And if you have issues, say, hey, let's get on the Wednesday night call. Tell me what's going on. Tell me, hey, none of these numbers work. There's no relatives. There's nothing. It's a complete ghost, whatever. I'm going to walk through and find out what you've done, figure out what you have or haven't done. Then I'll tell you, hey, this is what you need to do next. Or if a lot of times I'm at my computer, I'll say, hey, email me. I don't expect people to openly tell me the address of their best leads because we have quite a few people on the call. I might work the lead while we're on the phone, just see what I can find real quick. But generally, it's just tell them what they need to do, and it's pretty simple.
So that first is usually going to get most of the leads and most of the information back. And those hard to do ones, that's when it's like, hey, just contact customer service, contact me, and we'll help you out. If
it's really like, generally, I'm going to be able to fix it on the Wednesday night call. Generally, it's just part of the learning process. They don't know what to do, so I ask that question. I'll tell you. I can generally have one guy in California. He's got some great leads. They were all deceased, and he was just at dead ends with them. It was something so simple as, have you done an obituary search yet? To me, that's obvious, but I forget. He's like, no, never thought of that. He went through and did that, and now he's moving forward. And what we're going to do over the course of the next couple of weeks, I think he's still got 2 or 3 that are a little bit tougher, but there's some other avenues we can pursue with those. I'm just going to kind of walk him through that. You don't want to pay me my hourly rate, so that's why it's set up that way.
Yeah.
Because to really be hands-on, have it done for you kind of stuff. That's time consuming.
Right.
And my goal is to help as many people as possible. And I think you can do that effectively with the scripts, with the phone calls. We're going to start dropping a lot of I'm a big believer in sharing this. Again, it goes back to I want you to be successful. We did a class. We're going to do classes. We're going to do things that we're not going to. There's no upsell. There's no. Give me $10,000, I'll make you 100. It's just it's just knowledge. It's just
we have a field day making fun of those. I mean, here all the time. There's an event coming up this weekend that I've made fun of, and even though I'm going just to see what's there and see what kind of networking. But I joke that it's like makes me cringe the idea that I'm going. But
I joke around with people. Anytime I know that stuff's going around, I'm like, hey, don't separate yourself from the herd. They'll surround you and pick you off, and next thing you know, they're like, so how many credit cards do you have? What are your balances?
It's like, to go back to using this as an overall strategy for real estate investing, what kind of numbers does somebody need to be doing to be successful? I know with, like, in the old homevestors world, they always said when starting out, you need to get into 100 houses as quickly as possible to learn how to buy a house. You may not even buy a house in those 100 houses, but to get those interactions out of the way. With skip tracing, like, how many of these do I need to be doing a month to potentially get a deal? I guess I'm asking what kind of percentage should you spend?
I'm glad you asked that. That's a common question. So the short answer is no telling. I mean, and the reason is there's so many variables that go into that. So what kind of leads are you going to work? Is it return mail? Well, what was your criteria for? What was your list? What was your campaign?
Right.
Okay. Is it vacants? Is it just creating your own list? So that's the biggest variable. The nature of the lead. Some other variables that come into play is how are you going to contact them? Is it you? Is it a VA? Is it ringless voicemail? Is it text messages? Mm-hmm. Every little nuance makes a difference. And so if you combine all that, different types of leads, different types of contacts, there's a lot there. But I can tell you the most measurable thing the really only thing I've measured was when I really got into skip tracing and I was methodically driving for dollars. Here, everybody says if you don't have any money, go drive for dollars, right? And my attitude back then was, if it's so freaking cheap and easy, and that's what they tell you to do because you don't have any other option, why stop doing it? Why not be really good at it? Mm-hmm. And so I was doing that, and when I got good at skip, I say good. I wish I knew then what I know now. I thought I was good. I lacked follow through. I wasn't methodical in going through and contacting these people. And some of those leads I never should have pursued. They were just right now I'd kill them within 2 minutes of looking them up. But even then,
kill the lead.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you watch some other videos here, Propelio is against murder.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there.
Where do y'all stand on that? No.
We're against murder. Well, we were talking about wholesaling with a dead body at one time, and we're like, let's just be clear, we don't condone murder.
Interesting.
Anyway, yeah, that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah,
I forgot.
I was talking. You lost my train of thought there. But
you were talking about you were on the train of
the
thought
vacants
of what you knew then, what you know
Yeah.
now, and how like back then you would spend time on deals, and now you would just kill it.
So yeah,
Deal,
so
not spending time on
I
it.
sucked at follow through. I wasn't quite as good at finding some people. I wasn't as persistent in going through this stuff. But at one point, my ratio was 40 leads to a deal. I sucked. Just as far as moving a property, negotiating with the sellers, I was horrible at it. Now, and I keep saying I want to do this, just even if it's just to put a video together, just to put on the web. This is how you drive for $1. Because I miss being methodical, even driving for $, mapping out my route. I felt like UPS. Right turn, right.
Right.
Being as efficient as possible. Going on trash days, so the trash cans are out on the street. All the little telltale signs of a vacant house.
Wait, say that again, because I've never heard of that, and then once you said it, I was like, well, no shit. That would be the great way indicator if it's vacant or not.
Oh yeah, I loved it.
Trash.
I'm like, oh hell yeah, it's trash day. Yeah.
And you're like, well, that's a no-brainer, but I would never have thought about that.
And there's that.
Because I'm stupid.
And here's something for any of you that are driving for $. If you see enough of these, just remember it was me that said this. I used to throw these away. So you're driving by, you've seen property is secured. Hey, this house has a notice on there, property preservation company. This house has been secured, winterized,
Yeah.
I always thought that was a foreclosed property. So I never even, I'm like, oh, foreclosure, just keep driving. Never knew, I probably passed up hundreds of those. And then by accident, I decided to go ahead and take a look at one. Well, just because that notice is on the door doesn't mean the foreclosure is done. The bank can secure that property if they know that's their collateral. If they know it's vacant, it's been deemed vacant, and the house, they're not paying the loan, they can secure it. That's their collateral. They're going to go inspect it once a month. They might, put those blue tarps on the roof and mow the yard, things like that. And that, best deal I can think of off the top of my head, a house in that category, 3 years ago, I would have got 0 because I was just totally dismissed it initially. Saw a vacant house. This was by accident, 2.5 years later maybe. Saw a vacant house, saw a little notice, lockbox on the door. Looked it up, it was still in the owner's name. On paper, this is just a good all-around test scenario. On paper, per the appraisal district, the owner was alive and living in that house. Well, I know he's not. I didn't know if he was alive or not. Skip traced him. He died. Okay, it was like, this is getting interesting, So I know there's a loan that's defaulted on at this point, or they're not paying that. The owner's deceased. I find his 2 children down in Harlingen, about 4 hours south of us from Houston. And it took me a while to get
4 hours south of Houston is the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, Harlingen. Yeah, they're down on the beach, man. They were down in down South Texas.
Oh, like this south.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were down.
I thought you meant like in the water. I was like,
oh no, they were
on
down.
the water?
Drive past Corpus.
Like I said,
Yeah.
referred to earlier, Ryan's an idiot. Anyway, go ahead.
You got water on the mind. So,
Drip.
so this goes back to prioritizing and knowing a good lead. So first of all, it was vacant.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then I see it's got issues with the loan just because the mortgage company has got a property preservation company out there. I skip trace the owner. Oh, he's deceased. And find the heirs. Well, they're 4 hours away. Mm-hmm. There's a lot. And the house is a wreck. I can tell it's a full rehab from just the street. So that tells me a lot about that property. That's a hell of a lead. And it took me a while to get in touch with the son, but he finally got in touch with him. His response was, "You'd be better off just wait for it to go to the auction at some point when they foreclose on it. You'd be better off just." He doesn't even want to take money at this point. He doesn't think there's any value in this property. So
You're right. Deed of trust.
yeah,
Or deed in lieu, I mean.
they had tried to do something, and I said, "Look, there was no will." Another scenario. A lot of people chase probates. That's great. I don't do them, but more power to you if you do. A lot of people die and they don't have a will. Those properties will never show up on probate. So that was what was going on here. So I got in touch with him and then just made an offer. I said, "Look, what if I can take care of the loan payoff? I guess taxes were being taken care of. The loan payoff. We'll get the title updated. Take care of the probate type stuff. Laid out everything for him. It's like, if we could get you and your sister $5,000 apiece, would that work?" His response, I'll never forget it. He's like, "I don't think you can do that, but if you can, yes, that will work." Well, I already knew we were looking at $70,000, $80,000. Made that deal work.
Was that a wholesale or a flip?
Wholesale. So that was it. On that property, pretty confident we made more than the guy that flipped it.
Right.
And we were pushing the number. We were pretty aggressive with it, but it was in a good area. We just knew we could.
Right.
It wasn't the standard 70% ARV. We were pushing it. The ARV was at a higher price point. You can put. I think a lot of y'all probably seen that. If it's a 300,000, 350, in a hot neighborhood, you can push it 75, 80%. Mm-hmm. I'm not advising you to do that. I'm just telling you there's buyers that will. So.
Well, I feel like we could sit here and chat all day, but I feel like we could, again, talk all day. So if somebody wanted to do business with you, how do they get a hold of you?
They can go. First of all, they can go to our website, skipgenie.com. You can email me, Larry at skipgenie.com. Brian and I were talking about this earlier. I'm new to this Facebook trend. So, yeah.
Facebook, that's on the line, right?
Yeah, apparently Facebook's not going away. I'm starting to be much more active. I like to be engaged on Facebook, so you can hit me up there, email. Trying to think if I'm leaving anything else out. And like I said, even if you have any questions in general, I obviously like to talk about skip tracing.
Yeah.
I can go on. There's a lot I can go on about, but there's no. Don't be reluctant to contact me. Trust me, there's no sales pitch from me. I'll tell you how skip tracing can benefit you.
Right.
Give you an honest assessment.
Well, I'd like to talk to you about getting you in here again, or go out in the field and do some driving for dollars type thing. I think that'd be kind of cool.
I'd love to go. I keep saying I'd like to go to California, Portland, just to go to a whole other market because their price points. It's freaking ridiculous out there. Yeah.
I just wholesaled a $1.5 million house. What'd you get? $1.5 million.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, wouldn't it? Well, anyways, thanks again for being here. Until next time, we'll see you then. I know, but I was doing the outro for the old one. So you can cut that, and then we can go to the Facebook.
Okay. Are you ready?
Well, yeah.
Rena, he asked, what was the prices of your services? And I think you already asked that question. But
Yeah.
40. You said 40.
So we have one option at $47 a month and $1.50 a search after that. And then the other option is $97 a month, and it's $1.25 a search. Then, like I said, with that you get the scripts, and the big thing there is the weekly phone calls, the Q&A calls if you're having issues. I want to help you. That's the only way I can help you is if you're having issues, you communicate them with us.
Yeah, so many times there's all about the mentor. Let me buy you coffee. Let me pick your brain. It's like when you have an opportunity to actually pick somebody's brain and it's scheduled, you need to take advantage of that.
Yeah, we've had a couple of customers drop out, and we call them up just want to see what happened, this and that. It's like they were having issues that had they communicated them to us as far as just skip tracing and contacting these people, could have solved it before that happened. But they just if we don't know about it, we can't help you.
Right.
So.
Okay, the next one, Alfred asked the same question. He also asked, Alfred Lynn, he also
Alfred.
blocked him. Larry.
Larry blocked him?
I blocked him.
Man, Larry, why'd you block Alfred?
I don't even know how to block. If I did that, it was by accident.
He put LL, so.
I apologize for that. Like I said, I know what blocking is, but I don't even know how. If he's still online, can you tell me when I did that?
Well, if anything, you should be able to go back to his feed and click on him and say unblock.
Yeah. I'll get his info from you after this and figure out how to unblocking.
You should give him a free month.
So the next
He's like, I didn't say that.
Yeah. Might just do that.
Nope. Maybe.
I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right. Her name is Beira. She said no extra charges for both skip trace.
Nope. That's just part of what we provide.
Oh, okay. So if I give you not give you, but if I'm paying the $90 service, what was it, $97?
Yeah.
$97. The $1.25 is only if I've got a one-off.
No. So that you can log into the user dashboard one at a time, or you can give us 100 leads in a spreadsheet for a bulk skip trace. It's just per search. It's $1.25.
Okay. So if I've got 1,000 leads. Is that do I need to break it up into 100, or can I do 1,000 leads?
No, you can do 1,000.
So $1.25 is for the 1,000
yeah,
leads.
it's per search. And again, if there's no result, there's no charge.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying it was $97 and then $1.25 per lead.
That's I think that's right too.
No, but like if I've got a spreadsheet of 1,000 leads and I'm paying you $97. And I give you that spreadsheet. Is it $1.25 per line in
yes.
that spreadsheet? Okay, that's what I meant.
That's what
by search you meant each line is a search.
Yes,
okay.
yes. Sorry about that.
Yeah, miscommunicate. Good thing we're doing this.
Yep.
And I'm not sure how she's asking her next question. She said, with both search, Skip Genie runs the skip traces for us.
Say that 3 times.
Yeah. Yes. We run the skip trace for them. Yeah, so the way the bulk skip trace works is it's a very simple format. We just ask you to give us property owner name, street address, and zip code. No city, no state. It's in a spreadsheet format. You upload it on that link through our website, and then we're going to return it back to you with all that information we talked about. Address, deceased, yes or no, age, address history, phone numbers, likely possible email addresses, and the financial distress indicators.
And then it's up to you to go out there and just conquer.
Yep. And on the bulk skip trace, it is in a format that you can upload it if you want to use like an auto dialer or something like that. There's not a lot of reconfiguration of the data and stuff like that. Okay. I said that was built for our internal. All of this originated for our own needs. So we have an idea of what.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, we have an idea of what you're going to do, the issues and stuff like that you're going to have. Or we tried to head everything off. So,
like all of the lead list that Propelio provides, it was all kind of like you were talking about the value add, all the stuff you just give away. That's similar to Propelio because all the lead list, that was just something that Daniel was doing with his VAs anyway for his own home buying business, and he's like, well, hell, I can just throw that into the Propelio, give it away.
Yeah.
And now it's more of a. People think that's what they're buying. It's like, no, you're buying invoice comps. You're buying the ability to figure out how to run your business. This stuff is just gifted, but I've seen that as the main focal point.
Yeah, you're making it convenient for them. Like I said, you're helping them to be a little bit more successful at what they're doing. So.
Yeah.
Okay, you have 2 questions from Maria. She said.
Hi, Maria.
Huh?
I was saying hi, Maria.
I thought you said my Maria, Brooks and Dunn.
Do you have a written manual of this, and how do this? Basically, do you have a written manual?
No, and the reason is, I could break down at a very high level. I could break it down. Run a skip trace report, call the numbers, text the numbers, call the relatives, text the relatives. Search for an obituary. I could do some very high level stuff, but trying to think of just little weird scenarios.
I think also from a manual standpoint, it's like you're okay giving the information away and telling people and teaching them how to do it, but you don't necessarily need to write a manual on how to do your business. It's just like I'd
rather make a video. I'll put it that way, or something like that. It's He said it would be a very boring manual too. Just
click.
Yeah, you'd have this huge flow chart the size of this wall. In this scenario, do this. This scenario, do that.
What was the second part?
Second question is, how much is your
Hourly
hourly rates?
rate?
Oh,
For
no.
consultation? Do you do like mentorship for hourly?
No.
rate?
I was joking around about the hourly rate. Like I said,
A case of beer.
Our model is to, like I said, I think the vast majority. Maria sounds like she's anticipating there might be a learning curve. It might be a little difficult. The vast majority of the difficulties you'll encounter starting out, we can knock those out on our weekly phone calls. As a matter of fact, we've recorded those. Here, in the relatively near future, we're going to have all of our recorded weekly phone calls. She could probably learn whatever manual she's looking for. You could probably get a lot of that information just from listening to our old recorded calls once we get those posted. But again, once a week, whatever issues you're having, you hop on the call and we hash it out right there.
Okay. David asks,
Hi, David.
What is TIO?
TLO?
Oh yeah, it's TL. I think he means TLO. So we talked about lower tier versus upper tier skip trace services. So lower tier is the Intellius, Spokio, been verified, white pages. And I'm not saying that those are wrong all the time or that you can never get phone numbers for those people. I'm just saying for the nature of what we do with vacants, return mail, just stay away from those.
If you spend money, might as well spend money.
Yeah. Because again, ultimately, trying to save that money on those services is going to cost you money because you will miss out. You're going to miss something and you're not going to be able to get in touch with those
You're not
owners.
going to get that $80,000 text message. You're not going to get that $80,000 I don't know, the house down south.
Yeah,
the 4 hours in the golf house.
Yeah. So TLO is one of what I consider the upper tier services. So you got some examples of that are TLO, Delve Point, IDI, and Microbuilt. Microbuilt's probably on the lower end of that, as well as LexisNexis. LexisNexis provides good financial data on people, but I don't care about that. It's not helping me. I don't care what your credit score is. I want to know how to contact you.
Yeah, you're not trying to see if they're good fit for a job or employment or something.
Yep. So to me, as far as quality, probably the top ones are TLO, us, Delve Point, and IDI.
Okay.
Sorry if that was a long-winded answer over what are these three letters.
We've already stopped. This is just for fun.
And then the last one is from Propelio. Do you have a way to check if someone is deceased besides checking orbits and checking a skip tracing program?
Really, that's the only way to confirm it as far as online or through a service. Like I said, that should show up if that death was reported SSDI. There's a death record there, but if not, okay, well, here's a scenario. You can search county clerk's records, and sometimes you will find, this is some weird stuff here. This isn't common, but searching the probate courts, sometimes you get some, I just ran into this recently. It was an application from a funeral home. The owner of this property died. It was vacant. There was no will in the probate records, but it was an application from a funeral home saying they were asking Harris County to pay this funeral expense. It was an emergency. There was an affidavit in this request from neighbors stating the owner's name, address of the house, which is the one I was looking at, and stated, wife died years and years and years ago, no children, no siblings. Gave me a ton of useful information. Mm-hmm. So the probate records work sometimes in a roundabout way. I've seen where they're trying to establish guardianship for people, like you're mentally or physically incapable of taking care of yourself, things like that.
Okay, we have actually one more. From Vera, she says monthly subscriptions gets you unlimited searches.
Well, you can do as many. You still have a cost per search, but there's no cap. It's You can do 5, you can do 50,000. There's no cap on it. Okay.
Well, if there's no more questions, again, thank you for coming in.
I appreciate
Drove up from Houston today to be with us, and I really appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoyed your time here, and thank you, Facebook. Hopefully the audio on this video was much better than earlier today. We kind of screwed the pooch on that one. Anyway, talk to you soon. Thanks again. You're going to start answering a phone call before you even tell us we're off? Who the hell is on the phone?
Hey, you went to take a leak in a minute.
Hey, what's going on, man?